When I first packed up my life in America and moved to the UK a year and a half ago, I thought the biggest adjustments would be driving on the left side of the road, figuring out what a roundel is, and learning that chips are actually fries. But the longer I live here, the more I realize that the British Isles are practically operating on a completely different set of physical and legal laws. There are things about this country that are so incredibly bizarre, so wildly eccentric, that if you told them to any average American, they would assume you were making them up. Here is the truth. Some of the most unbelievable things about the UK are not myths at all. They are active laws, historical realities, and bizarre traditions that people here just accept as completely normal. So today, I want to take you through 9 wild facts about the United Kingdom that sound like absolute lies, but are actually 100% real. Let us start with something that absolutely blew my mind as an American, and that is how the UK handles private property. In the United States, we take land ownership incredibly seriously. If you wander onto someone's private property in Texas or Montana, you are very likely to encounter locked gates, barbed wire, warning signs, or a very unhappy landowner telling you to get off their grass. Trespassing is practically a cardinal sin. But then I came to the UK and specifically learnt about Scotland's right to roam. Officially established under the Land Reform Scotland Act of 2003, this law gives anyone the legal right to walk, hike, camp, and cross private land, including massive historic estates, private forests, and sprawling fields. As long as you act responsibly and respect the environment, you can literally pitch a tent on a millionaire's estate. I was literally shocked when my British friends first took me on a hike and we casually strolled right past a giant private manor house, waving at the owners. In the US, we would never dream of just wandering onto private acreage like that without expecting the police to be called. It is a completely different psychological way of viewing the earth. Here, the land belongs to everyone to enjoy, while back home, private property is practically sacred ground. Next up, we need to talk about what might be the most terrifyingly glorious sporting event on the face of the earth, the Cooper's Hill cheese rolling. If you have never heard of this, please prepare yourself. Every year in Gloucestershire, thousands of spectators gather at Cooper's Hill, which is not just a hill, it is a near vertical cliff with a 50% gradient. The organisers take an 8-pound wheel of double Gloucester cheese, stand at the very top, and launch it down the slope. This cheese reaches breakneck speeds of up to 80 miles per hour. A second later, a group of brave and honestly slightly chaotic competitors throw themselves down the hill in hot pursuit. The laws of physics are completely thrown out the window. People are not running, they are literally tumbling, flailing, and cartwheeling down a muddy, grassy cliff. The first person to cross the finish line at the bottom wins the actual wheel of cheese. As an American, we are obsessed with safety waivers, knee pads, helmet laws, and avoiding lawsuits at all costs. But here, people willingly accept sprains, concussions, and broken bones, all for the sheer glory of winning some dairy. The local government has tried to cancel it and declare it unsafe, but the locals simply refuse to let the tradition die. They keep showing up, throwing themselves down the cliff, and celebrating like absolute champions. It is pure, unadulterated madness, and I love every single second of it. And by the way, this is exactly the kind of eccentric British culture and chaotic daily life that I go much deeper on with the amazing people who support this channel directly. If you are sitting there thinking, all right, Olivia, I need the full unedited backstory of my life in the UK, definitely join the membership below. That is where I share my deepest thoughts, the hilarious personal struggles of navigating this country as an expat, and all the extra bits of British weirdness that do not always fit into the main videos. Now let us talk about London's iconic black cabs and the absolute gauntlet their drivers have to go through. In the US, if you want to drive a taxi or an Uber, you basically just need a driver's license. We plug an address into Google Maps, a clean record and a working GPS, and pray the satellite signal does not drop. But in London, they have something called the knowledge, and it is widely considered the toughest taxi exam in the entire world. To get a license to drive a black cab, applicants must memorize the layout of 25,000 streets and over 20,000 landmarks within a 6-mile radius of Charing Cross. This is not just a quick study guide. It takes the average person 3 to 4 years of daily study, usually riding around London on a tiny scooter in all kinds of weather, physically mapping out every single route in their head. But somehow, it gets even crazier. Scientists at University College London decided to study the brains of these drivers. They did MRI scans and discovered that passing this exam actually changes their physical brain structure. The posterior hippocampus, which is the exact area of the brain responsible for spatial memory and navigation, was physically larger in qualified black cab drivers compared to the general public. They literally grew their brains just to navigate the chaotic streets of London without a map. I mean, think about that for a second. The next time you get into a black cab, your driver is literally a neurological outlier. Speaking of things that sound like a comedy sketch but are actually written into law, we have to talk about the Salmon Act of 1986. Specifically, Section 32 of this actual, legally binding Act of Parliament. Under this law, it is a criminal offence to handle a salmon in suspicious circumstances. When I first heard about this, I was convinced it was some ancient, forgotten medieval law from the 1200s. But no, this was passed in 1986. That was the decade of big hair, cassette tapes, and apparently highly suspicious fish. Now, the actual legal context makes sense. It was designed to crack down on illegal fish poaching and prevent people from selling illegally caught salmon on the black market. But the wording they chose is just spectacular. How do you even look suspicious while holding a salmon? Are you whispering secrets to it? Are you wearing a trench coat in a dark, foggy London alley, slowly revealing a fish tucked under your arm to a passerby? It is the kind of law that makes you do a double take. If you are caught holding a salmon and cannot prove where you got it, you could genuinely face legal consequences. It is just so wonderfully specific. If you think the laws are hard to pronounce, wait until you try to navigate the geography. Let us head over to Wales for a moment to visit a town with a 58-letter name. I am going to do my absolute best here. Llanfair Pewdebwyl, Gwyngyl Gogori, Cwndrop Llantysilio Gogogosh. Yes, that is a real town, and yes, that is the actual spelling on the train station sign. In English, this monstrous name translates to the Church of St. Mary in the hollow of White Hazel near a rapid whirlpool, and the Church of Tysilio near the Red Cave. In America, we name our towns very simple, straightforward things like Springfield, Boston, or Portland. If a town name has more than 3 syllables, we start complaining. But in Wales, they have a town name that looks like a cat fell asleep on a keyboard, and yet the local weather forecasters can pronounce it flawlessly in one breath on national television without even flinching. It has become a massive tourist attraction, mostly for tourists who want to stand in front of the giant sign, look completely bewildered, and try to take a selfie that fits all 58 letters into the frame. Moving on to London's history, did you know that the entire security of the British Kingdom technically depends on the happiness of 6 giant black birds? I am not joking. Since the reign of King Charles II in the 17th century, there has been a royal decree stating that at least 6 ravens must remain at the Tower of London at all times. The belief, which is still taken very seriously, is that if the ravens ever leave the tower, the kingdom will fall and the British Empire will crumble into dust. Because of this, the UK government keeps a dedicated staff member on the royal payroll called the Raven Master. Their entire job is to feed, protect, and care for these ravens. They feed them raw meat, biscuits soaked in blood, and keep a very close eye on them. To make absolutely sure the prophecy does not come true, the Raven Master slightly trims the birds' flight feathers so they cannot fly away too far, and they actually keep 7 or 8 ravens on site just to have a few spares in case of an emergency. Imagine having your national security policy tied to the mood of 6 birds. In the United States, we have the Pentagon, advanced military intelligence, and high-tech defense systems. In the UK, they have a lovely gentleman feeding raw meat to ravens to prevent the literal apocalypse. It is the most beautiful, dramatic thing I have ever heard. If you are enjoying these mind-blowing details and love hearing an American get absolutely bewildered by this country, please hype up this video in the comments and hit that like button. Seriously, showing some love and dropping a comment really helps the channel grow, and it lets me know that you guys are enjoying this journey with me. But the royal animal rules do not stop with ravens. We need to talk about the king's personal menagerie. Technically, by law, the British monarch owns all unmarked mute swans swimming in open water across the country. Every year, there is a ceremony called swan upping on the River Thames, where the king's official swan marker row up the river in traditional uniforms to count, weigh, and check the health of the swans. But it gets even wilder. Under a statute from the year 1324, passed during the reign of King Edward II, the monarch also owns all fishes royal in the United Kingdom. And despite the name, fishes royal does not just mean fish. It legally includes all whales, sturgeons, dolphins, and porpoises swimming in the waters around the UK. If a whale or a dolphin unfortunately washes ashore, it technically belongs to the king. I was literally shocked when I learnt this. In the US, wildlife belongs to the public trust. The idea of a dolphin swimming past you on a beach in Cornwall and thinking, oh, that is the king's personal dolphin, is just so incredibly surreal. It is a 700-year-old law that is still legally active today. Quick thing before we get to the final two on this list, which are honestly the most mind-blowing of them all. The data on this channel shows that over 80% of you watching right now are not subscribed. That means you are showing up for the content, but the algorithm has no reason to show you the next video. Hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Alright, let us talk about mail. Specifically, postage stamps. In the UK, the stamps feature the profile of the reigning monarch. Now, under the Treason Felony Act of 1848, it is a serious offence to do anything that disrespects or defaces the image of the monarch. Because of this, it is technically considered an act of treason to place a postage stamp on an envelope with the king's head upside down. Now, to be completely fair, nobody is actually being dragged away by the royal guard and locked in the Tower of London for making a mistake at the post office today. But legally speaking, the law is still on the books. In the US, we have the First Amendment, which protects our right to protest, express ourselves, and even deface currency or flags if we want to make a political statement. The idea that a simple slip of the thumb while mailing a birthday card could technically make you a felon in the eyes of the law is both hilarious and slightly terrifying. It is the kind of detail that makes you double-check your envelope 3 times before dropping it in the red post box. And finally, we have a geographic fact that absolutely blew my mind when I first looked at a map of this country. No matter where you stand in the United Kingdom, no matter how far inland you think you are never more than 75 miles from the sea. Let that sink in. 75 miles. For me, coming from the vastness of North America, this is absolutely mind-boggling. In the US, you can stand in the middle of Kansas or Nebraska and be literally thousands of miles away from any salt water. You can drive for days in any direction and still just see flat fields or mountains. But in the UK, the ocean is always just a short drive away. This geographic reality explains so much about British culture. It explains why the second the sun comes out and the temperature hits a modest 70 degrees, the entire country collectively decides to pack up their cars and drive to the nearest beach for a walk, some fish and chips, and a soft-serve ice cream with a chocolate flake in it. The sea is practically in the DNA of everyone who lives here. Living in the UK for the past year and a half has been one of the most incredible, eye-opening and hilarious experiences of my life. Every single day I learn something new about this beautiful, quirky country that makes me smile, scratch my head, or just laugh out loud. It is a place where ancient laws from the Middle Ages live side by side with cutting-edge technology, and where people will happily jump down a steep cliff chasing a wheel of cheese on a bank holiday Monday. If you enjoyed this journey through the wild, true facts of the UK, let me know in the comments which one of these shocked you the most. I will see you in the next video.